cranes his neck again, rises in his seat, and, with heavy grace, swings his whip. Several times he looks round at the officer, but the latter keeps his eyes shut, and is apparently disinclined to listen. Putting his fare down at Vyborgskaya, Iona stops by a restaurant, and again sits huddled up on the box. Again the wet snow paints him and his horse white. 1 hour passes, and then another. 3 young men, 2 tall and thin, 1 short and hunchbacked, come up, railing at each other and loudly stamping on the pavement with their galoshes. "Cabby, to the police bridge," the hunchback cries in a cracked voice. "The 3 of us, 20 kopecks." Iona tugs at the reins and clicks to his horse. 20 kopecks isn't a fair price, but he has no thoughts for that. Whether it is a ruble or whatever it is, 5 kopecks doesn't matter to him now, so long as he has a fare. The 3 young men, showing each other and using bad language, go up to the sledge, and all 3 try to sit down at once. The question remains to be settled: which are to sit down and which one is to stand? After a long altercation, ill temper and abuse, they come to the conclusion that the hunchback must stand because he is the shortest. "Well, drive on," says the hunchback in his cracked voice, settling himself and breathing down Iona's neck. "Cut along. What a cap you've got, my friend. You wouldn't find a worse one in all Petersburg." Iona laughs. "It's nothing to boast of." "Well then, nothing to boast of, drive on. Are you going to drive like this all the way? Shall I give you one in the neck?" "My head aches," says one of the tall ones. "At the Dukhmasovs yesterday, Vaska and I drank 4 bottles of brandy between us." "I can't make out why you talk such stuff," says the other tall one angrily. "You lie like a brute." "Strike me dead, it's the truth." "It's about as true as that a louse coughs." Iona grins. "Merry gentlemen." "Phew, the devil take you," cries the hunchback indignantly. "Will you get on, you old plague, or won't you? Is that the way to drive? Give her one with the whip. Hang it all, give it her well." Iona feels behind his back the jolting person and quivering voice of the hunchback. He hears abuse addressed to him, he sees people, and the feeling of loneliness begins little by little to be less heavy on his heart. The hunchback swears at him till he chokes over some elaborately whimsical string of epithets and is overpowered by his cough. His tall companions begin talking of a certain Nadezhda Petrovna. Iona looks round at them. Waiting till there is a brief pause, he looks round once more and says, "This week my son died." "We shall all die," says the hunchback with a sigh, wiping his lips after coughing. "Come, drive on, drive on." "My friends, I simply can't stand crawling like this. When will he get us there?" "Well, you give him a little encouragement, one in the neck. Do you hear, old plague? I'll make you smart. If one stands on ceremony with fellows like you, one may as well walk. Do you hear, you old dragon, or don't you care a hang what we say?" And Iona hears rather than feels a slap on the back of his neck. He laughs. "Merry gentlemen, God give you health." "Cabman, are you married?" asks one of the tall ones. "I? Merry gentlemen, the only wife for me now is the damp earth. The grave, that is. Here my son's dead, and I am alive. It's a strange thing. Death has come in the wrong door. Instead of coming for me, it went for my son." And Iona turns round to tell them how his son died, but at that point the hunchback gives a faint sigh and announces that thank God they have arrived at last. After taking his 20 kopecks, Iona gazes for a long while after the revellers, who disappear into a dark entry. Again he is alone, and again there is silence for him. The misery which has been for a brief space eased comes back again, and tears his heart more cruelly than ever. With a look of anxiety and suffering, Iona's eyes stray restlessly among the crowds moving to and fro on both sides of the street. Can he not find, among those thousands, someone who will listen to him? But the crowds flit by, heedless of him and his misery. His misery is immense, beyond all bounds. If Iona's heart were to burst, and his misery...